How are you guys doing? I'm super excited about today because I get to share something that was brand new. Just maybe a year ago, I started with this Tower Garden home, and it has been incredible. So I'm going to actually go out and show you the growth in 1 week on my outside tower. So we are going to take a stroll. We're going to take a stroll right out here. Now, remind you, I live in Mesa, so this is my winter. Do you see the sun? It's beautiful. So let me turn this around because remember I had planted some baby zucchini, and it was just starting to, you could kind of tell that it was a zucchini. I want to show you this in 1 week. Okay. Do you see it? Like, it's at least 5 inches, 6 inches long, and look at the other ones coming. So I'm going to have lots of zucchini, and look what popped out, a green pepper, like 1 week. Is that incredible or what? Hey, Karen. Hey, Melina. And tomatillos are starting to grow. So if you can see right here, see the little tomatillos? Hey, Cindy. And I whacked this down last week, and look, it's totally grown. And these tomatoes are growing. I mean, it's pretty incredible. My tomatoes are finally starting to turn. Look how big they are. Like, I'm super excited for those. And so you can see, like, 1 week what happened with these tower gardens. I'm just totally blown away. So, but today, my focus is really going to be on the home tower, and it's a brand new tower that the company knew we had a need. Okay. Hey, Rebecca. So we really had a need for people, especially if they're growing in small areas, if they're growing, they have a small apartment. Now, mind you, I'm in a fifth wheel. You can kind of tell, right? I'm in a fifth wheel. You can't get any smaller than that. And, but for people that have like a corner, they have where they can move a chair or an end table out, or they have a small patio or a small balcony. People were really wondering, like, what can I do to grow all year long? And here's the other thing. I just put water in here, so I got to put that back. So the other thing that they wanted to do is people in cold climates. So, I grew outside in Oregon pretty much all year long, but I had to take precautions, which next Sunday, I believe, I'm going to be talking about growing in cold weather. So join me next Sunday for that. But it was a challenge. Okay. So if I'm growing in snow, I have to take precautions of what I do with my produce, right? Well, people who live in Canada or Alaska or some of the colder states, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Wyoming, Montana, they all wanted to grow but could not grow in the winter outside. It just is too harsh. And so the company heard everyone. And so they came up with what we call a tower garden home. Hey, Debbie. So welcome everyone. Courtney, Marilyn, thank you for joining me. And so if you want to, I'm going to turn this around real quick. So here's my tower garden home. Now you can see how small it is. Like, there's my table. It's in a little corner, right? Now, I whacked the heck out of this about a week and a half ago, and look how big it's gotten already. Oh, it's amazing. But think of this as a supermarket at home, like your tower garden condominium, right? I mean, that's exactly what this is. And what's really great about this is it's fun. It's really enjoyable. Like, it's fun to watch it grow. And especially if you have kids at home, oh my gosh, kids love this thing, because if they plant it and they watch it grow and they harvest it, they're going to tend to want to eat it, right? So it's a real encouragement to our children to go ahead and grow on a tower. So this vertical aeroponic growing system has no soil, as you can see. And this one, if you'll notice, is a little smaller than the one outside. It's just extraordinary. And you don't have to wait for a season. So when you're growing in soil, you kind of wait for a season to harvest. This thing is growing, you're harvesting in like 2 to 4 weeks, right? And so during cold weather, that's what stops our gardening, right? It's the ground gets frozen, it gets cold, and it stops us from growing and gardening in the wintertime. But you don't have to worry about that with this indoor tower. I mean, look how incredible this is. And so, you know, what I'm going to give you the dimensions. It's about 5 foot tall, and it's about 24 inches across. Okay, and here's the beautiful part. So these sections right here, you have 16 sections for some of the bigger plants, and then you have what we call a microgreen section, which has another 16. You're growing 32 plants on one system. Now think about that, 32 plants. That's a lot of plants, okay? And we're going to talk a little bit. I'm going to explain the difference between microgreens and baby greens. But literally, this one has the casters right built in. See it? So you can actually roll it right into your kitchen. So when you're cooking, you can have fresh herbs and greens right at your fingertips. And here's our little port. See, it's got water in here. And see that white bulb right there? Well, that goes to this, which is a really nice feature because this measures your water. So when your water goes down, it'll tell you when to fill up with some water in here. And because I live in a fifth wheel, I have put a hose right in here from outside, but I also just have a pitcher, a gallon pitcher, and I can just put it right in here. So that's pretty awesome. It's super simple, super simple. So it has a access port. Now the pump that's in there is a real low wattage, okay? And the timer, because it's going to come with this, let's see if I can point it out right there. It's a very low wattage pump. Has a blue hose that goes up to the center. It sucks the water up the center of these plants, and then it showers back down on the back side of them. Now, this is a brand new timer, and we love this timer because there's only 2 settings. It's O for outside or I for inside, which is pretty awesome. So you don't have to worry about setting the pegs or anything like that. And so on the inside setting, it's set for 5 minutes on and 40 minutes off. How's that? Pretty cool, huh? It comes with all the nutrients, everything you're going to need. The plants love it. And guess what? It's everything the plants need and that we need, okay? And so, you know, when this goes down, this water meter right here, so here's the halfway point right here. Do you see it? Right there. That means you're going to add about 5 gallons. So this is a 13-gallon tank, okay? So it's real easy to see. Hey, Holly. So that is as simple. There's no tools that you need, none of that. Now, some of the things that people love to do, so let me see if I can back it up here. Ooh, look. So some of the things that people love to do is they like to have a juicing tower. So things that you're going to add into your shakes or just juicing, period. Some people want to have like an herb tower. That's totally good too. And you can have a salad tower. So this is what I've got. So let me turn it around so you can see I have bigger plants in here. Now, mind you, I did whack these things a week and a half ago and they're already growing. So kale, look at the beautiful lettuces. Can you believe that? Here's spinach. Look at this, the spinach growing. Here's arugula. I love arugula. Look at this one on this side. Look at that one. Oh, is that like beautiful or what? So, oh, and the basil, I'm going to tell you right now. Oh, if you smell it or eat it, the basil is like the bomb. It is the best, right? And so you can pretty much do what you want with this tower garden. Now, if you'll notice, there is no place for a support cage like the outside tower. Can you take this tower outside? Yes, but you'd want to make sure the lights are not on it. So if you want to have it outside, you can grow outside. You can't have the, because these are all rated, and we're going to talk about these, but these are all rated definitely for inside. So you wouldn't want to have your lights outside, but you could grow outside. It's just not designed for some of your bigger plants like tomatoes and squash and all of those things. It's going to be designed for some of your smaller plants. But here's the beautiful thing about this. When everything started to change and hit this last year, 2020, people were starting to get concerned about, who was touching their produce, or they were buying produce and 2 days later they were throwing it out. They didn't want to go back to the store. Think about this. These perishables, which I call perishables because they're greens and they can perish real fast, you're harvesting as you need them. So you're not throwing anything away. I mean, that's pretty awesome. And the other thing is that you know how they're being grown. They're not being sprayed on. I'm not using herbicides or pesticides on this tower at all. So I'm really assured that they're organic, non-GMO produce right at my fingertips. And so that's pretty awesome, you have to admit. So what I want to talk to you a little bit now are these lights, okay? So these LED lights are rated at 50,000 hours. Look at, I can hold on to it and it's not hurting me at all. See, it's warm, but it's not like, if a child, put their hand on it, they're not going to get burned on it. It's 125 watts, okay, that are coming out of here, 125 watts. And between the four of them, they're real efficient and they're full spectrum lights, okay? And it costs about $3 a month to run them, okay? That's pretty darn reasonable. And, one of the things that's really important is that plants inside, if you have look, see, I have windows all around, but it's not strong enough to grow really nutrient dense produce. They tend to become a little, if they don't have the right lighting, they tend to become a little leggy. They'll look a little pale. So it's super important to have lights when you have them inside the tower, okay? And the other thing is that you want them to be plugged in direct to your power source, not into the timer, because you don't want the lights coming on or off as the timer for the water is going on and off. So make sure that you're plugging it in direct, and you're going to want to run them at least, I have mine set on 18 hours on and 6 hours off. Now, I did have them on 14 hours and then had a chance to talk with Tim Blank, and he runs his, and he's the developer of the Tower Garden. He said for optimal growth, you should run them at least 18 hours and 6 hours off. And so he has his coming on at 6 a.m. They shut off at midnight. And let me show you this. So here's the timer for the lights. Do you see how each of these little pegs, so that I've pushed them out, okay? That means it's on, okay? And this right here is the current time, okay? So, and this will turn. This little, I have it on the timer. If you wanted them on completely all the time, you'd have them on here, but I wouldn't recommend it. And the reason, people ask me all the time, like, why don't you just run your lights 24 hours a day? Well, plants love to go to sleep, just like we do. That's when they grow the most. So they're kind of on the same circadian rhythm as we are. Our bodies are the same way. So run your lights about 18 hours on and then shut them off so these little plants can grow, get their sleep that they need, suck up all those nutrients. The water's still going to go on and off throughout the night, but they do need to go to bed. So make sure, okay, that you're shutting them off at least 6 hours, okay? So I'm going to show you now. We're going to talk a little bit about microgreens and baby plants, okay? Super important. Oh, one thing I wanted to tell you too. I learned something. See this, before we go on to that, see these lights, how they bend? Well, one of these sections, or something similar, like 9 inches, if you stick it right here and bend it over the section, it'll be a perfect bend. And this should be 4 inches, about 4 to 5 inches away from the plants, because you don't want them so close that they're too close, but you don't want them so far away. So I always recommend about 4 inches. So I hope that was helpful. And so now we're going to talk about microgreens. And microgreens are pretty awesome, I have to say. They're not to be confused with sprouts or with shoots, okay? And this one is a baby green. I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if I can get in a little closer. See how little this guy is? It's about 3 inches. It's time to harvest. That's called a baby green. Now, microgreens are much smaller, okay? They need to be harvested shortly after sprouting, and they typically have 1 or 2 leaves. Now, the reason they became all the rage is it started about in the 1980s in San Francisco, and people started growing and harvesting microgreens. And those microgreens can include, oh my gosh, there's so many things. Kale, arugula, basil, and believe it or not, beet greens, cilantro. So many, mild and spicy mix in the microgreen section. But they really should be less than like an inch. They're just when they just sprout, and you're going to trim them, and you're going to add them to all kinds of things. You're going to add them to, oh my gosh, salads, wraps, sandwiches, omelets, curries, soups. I add them in soups, smoothies, whatever you would like. Now, the reason that microgreens are such people love them on their salads is because they're so nutrient dense. They're rich in potassium and iron, magnesium and copper. And they also are a great source of plant compounds that include antioxidants and phytonutrients, which we know all about that in our concentrated plant nutrients. So see, these are too big to be baby greens. I'm going to be cutting these tonight because they're getting a little bit out of hand. So I'm going to be cutting these down, all of this down, and using it in my salads. This is a baby green right here, okay? And so you don't want to, the tendency is we want them to get really big and just fill up this tower. But if you're really designed to want some baby greens or some sprouts, you don't want, or some microgreens, you do not want them to grow super, super big, okay? They tend to have some stronger flavors when they're little, believe it or not. And they're kind of like, they can be sweet, they can be a little nutty tasting, they can be, a little bit on the spicy side. And so, it's super, super important that if you're going to grow the microgreens, make sure, if they're below an inch, they're barely coming up, they're a microgreen. But if they're 1 to 3 inches, they're more of these baby greens. Okay, so, and they just add some sweetness and spice to everything that we do. So, let me turn this around. So, you got kind of a good feel about this tower garden. Now, I will have to tell you, for some of us that are showing or these tower gardens off, or if you just didn't want it as tall, this tower garden can come down. So, you can actually bring it down to about the 3rd section, 1, 2, 3, right about here. And you could actually put one of the microgreen sections on it if you want. If you want a smaller unit, you could absolutely do that. This is, when I saw this, I was totally in. And at that time, I had like 2 tower gardens already. This was my 3rd one. But what I wanted was lettuce, kale, spinach, Swiss chard, arugula, herbs, baby greens. So like this kale right here is a perfect example of a baby green. It's like about 3 inches tall. That guy is getting cut tonight. And I wanted it right at my fingertips, and I didn't want to have to run to the store when I had to throw everything out. That has changed my world completely. And so I wanted to share that with you because I think it's important that everyone knows that we really have 2 versions of these incredible vertical aeroponic growing systems. Now, You're probably wondering, like, so why do they call the Tower Garden the Flex? Well, for years, I brought the Flex, the big one outside, 20 gallons. And it's not like huge, but it's bigger than this one. I would bring it inside and put lights on it. So you can bring your Tower Garden Flex inside. Now, what I recommend people doing, if they've been growing all summer long, they want to bring it in the winter, take it apart and wash it. And we're going to be talking about that in another Sunday, just a little bit of the maintenance, but I would wash it out and make sure it's clean so you're not bringing any kind of little bug. Now, here's a tip from Tim Blank that I thought it made so much sense. Because, now I don't have a dog right now. I'm thinking about getting one, by the way. It's real close. It's almost puppy time. But he has his tower in his home in a separate room. And so before he goes outside, he goes, he gets his slippers on or whatever. He goes into the room and he does all his Tower Garden stuff. He prunes for the morning to go into his smoothie, whatever, tests the pH, whatever he's doing. And then he closes the door. If you have the ability to do that, I would suggest it. And I'll tell you why. Because when we're outside and our dogs are outside, and usually it's in spring and summer, that is the biggest culprit. But we're walking around all this stuff and we get aphids on us, right? It gets on our clothes. They're microscopic. You can't hardly see them. They're on the dog. They come in, they can infect your tower. So it's been real helpful for me. I wash my hands, I kick off my shoes. Of course, we're down here in the desert. But I've not had aphids on my inside tower. Now, I used to get aphids all the time. Sometimes, because I had dogs and I was outside in the yard and I was coming in, wasn't paying attention, right? So now I understand. So if you get aphids or something else, we're going to be talking about that in another time. But just know you can actually pull the little plant out. You can fill your sink with water and some neem oil, which is okay, or peppermint soap, and just dip them in there, let them dry, rinse them off with water, stick them back in. Okay, and I wipe down the tower if you happen to get some. But it just kind of made sense, like, oh, gardening in the morning. Okay, so you can totally do that, or you can have it out here in the open, just like I do, and just enjoy it. I love it because it's like a water feature and it's relaxing, and the lights are not obtrusive, and so we just love it having it handy right here. So I hope that helped all of you, and I'm super happy. I'm excited that all of you joined me today. I think next Sunday I'm going to be talking about wintering in the garden, or in the winter, gardening in the winter and gardening in the summer, and things that you can do with water that you can't do with soil gardens, okay? So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful, and come and join me next Sunday, okay? All right. Oh, surprise. I have one other thing. So my husband and I decided that for anyone that was really curious and wanted to become a Tower Garden owner in January and February, we're going to offer a $25 gift certificate to whoever orders from us. We're going to go ahead and we're going to give them a gift certificate to True Garden, and you can order your seedlings and get started like that. Okay, so I just want to throw that out there. That was a surprise now that you've seen both of the Tower Gardens. And so anyway, we're super excited about this because we are excited when people can grow their own food and put better food on their table for their families, and they know how it's grown, they know the nutrition value of it, and they grew it themselves with no weeding, no rototilling, none of that. Just go over and pick and harvest. All right, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.